Hello everybody, it's Christine at CLAldridgeArt, and I am back with another installment of Color and Chat in Fabulous Flowers, which is my new release. And if you've not seen this book, this is, I just released this one at the beginning of November. And these are the small versions of the drawings at the back of the book. And in the back there's a couple of just blank frames in case you have something you want to draw or make a photograph, and there's some bookmarks to color. And then there are a lot of beautiful floral images that I have hand drawn to color. Some are complicated, some are not complicated. My drawings from my orchid series, each of the individual drawings from all 8 of my books are also available as individual drawings. So if you see something that you love, you don't want the entire book, you can get those in my Etsy shop. Otherwise, the book also is available as a PDF in my Etsy shop. So you can see I don't just draw patterns, I also draw things, birds and gilded cages and flowers in pots. This is the drawing that we are currently working on, and let me see if I can get the glare off of that for a second. And we're doing this. It was all based with NEOCOLOR IIs, and then we're coloring with Prismacolors and doing it as gems. And just a quick look at, oh, there's my kitty cat. And that is the one without the markings. And then at the very title, at the beginning title page, here's the one with some markings, and I've colored this one. So I did that the other day. This is also done with Prismacolors. And so it has been a few days since the last installment of this, and what's everybody been up to? I have been attending a lot of streams, and you know, just sort of generally poking my nose into the art community or into the coloring community and seeing what's the what you guys are talking about, what's in, what's out. Everybody is excited about new books coming out. I hope that some of you are excited about my new book having come out. And without further ado, we will I'll make an attempt to get started here. Apologize for the furnace noise. It does sit right outside my office door. And I've been making myself notes all week. Just little topics of interest. Like on the news the other day, I saw that Tyler Perry had paid off over $450,000 worth of layaways for people at Walmart in Atlanta, in 2 Walmart stores in Atlanta, which of course is his hometown and where he has his his movie studio. And I thought that was just a fabulous thing for him to have done, and taking after his mentor, Oprah Winfrey, of course. And then I have also, to try to, I don't know about you guys, but one of the things that I have a terrible time with is time management. And probably because I just, I am so easily distracted. I'm like, ooh, something shiny. Let me go look at that. Ooh, so-and-so is live. Oh, I gotta catch Sammy. oh, look, Dev's on unexpectedly. And, you know, it's so I've begun making myself lists and to see if I can't work out my time a little bit better. And it's actually working. I find that if I can get at least the first 2 or 3 things on my list done every day, it makes me feel like I've had a productive day. And I think that is kind of cool. Okay. Since we were last here, I did continue to work this area, and I think I've got it down to where I like it a little better. I just kept darkening it up and darkening it up until I finally got it where I wanted it. And then I did the other part of this, but don't worry, I've still left one of those down here to show you how I did that. And I wanted to, because I think I had done this particular gemstone before, but these ones, see these all, whoops, sorry, I'm looking at the screen and not looking at the page. These ones are all up and down. So the highlight is here, the translucency is here. But when you get to a side one like this, they're still in the same place. The translucency is still at the bottom of the stone. It's just on the other side. So I wanted to show you how that's done. And see if I can't get you down here closer. Meow. We will move the camera arm back. There we go. Probably have to work on the focus a little bit. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah. Let's try that. Sorry if I sound a little anxious today. I probably am. Okay, color to start with. Let's try the Copenhagen blue. Probably shouldn't start a gemstone while I'm wound quite this tightly, but we'll give it a go and see what we can do. Okay, well, how about a mistake right out of the box? No such thing as a mistake in art as long as you have an eraser. And yes, you can erase Prismacolor pencil. You just have to remember that there is going to be wax residue under it. So you just have to be a little more careful the first, or when you go back over it. Don't worry, I'll unwind here pretty quick. Boy, I have just gotten really bad at this, haven't I? Light-handed, Christine. Light-handed, not ham-fisted. So, since last I was here, or since last I did a video, I guess I did part 3 of this was the last video that I did. I spent, oh, that's what I did. I spent all weekend long swatching my new Prismacolors. I got the Prismacolor 150 set as a wonderful gift from a subscriber, Kenny. And so I'm just very, very lightly with the Copenhagen Blue, which is number 906. Laying in the base for this. And then I am going to switch to Peacock Blue, something with just a little bit of blue-green. Pardon me. I like to get a little bit of blue-green into my blue stones, just because I think that it's pretty, and I like them with a little bit of blue-green. If you don't like blue-green, you can just use all the different blues that you have. This is an ultramarine. You can just add ever so slightly, because stones have a lot of different colors. One of the things that I did, when I get done with a book, I always go through a period of where I can't draw a thing. Not a thing. I can't draw a circle, straight line. I just can't draw a darn thing, nor do I have any desire to. And it happens for about 30 days after every single book that I've released, and that's 8 books so far. So, you know, when you think about it, that's 8 months of lost time. And part of it is that I want to see how well the new book does. And if it doesn't too well, you know, you don't like to, you almost don't want to go back to work. But I should say that they do well. I've never been discouraged. Like, you know, like nobody likes my art, because I have a whole lot of sales to show that people do like my art. So it isn't so much an ego thing as it is you're spending, it's like you have to take off the artistic hat and put on the marketing hat. And that is a mental place that artists have to go. And it's also one of the places that artists are most reluctant to go. Because the last thing in the world that we want to do is promote ourselves. It's hard. For some reason, it is hard for an artist to get out there and promote themselves. And yet, it's the difference between selling books and not selling books. So if you want to sell books, you just simply, if you are an artist, have to overcome that fear factor. That, you know, that, oh, I don't want to promote in the groups because it feels like I'm spamming them, or, you know, nobody wants to hear about my new book because la-da-da-da-da. Because none of that is true. People do want to hear about it. They want to see the video. And you know, unless you're making, you know, obnoxious posts in every group on Facebook 14 times a day, you know, the chances are you're not gonna, you know, everybody in the group isn't gonna see it. So you have to, you know, you have to do it more than once, but not more than once every 2 or 3 days. So that means that you have to keep a schedule and a record. And I am sort of nuts about record keeping, because it's the former accountant in me is a record keeper, and just darkening up these edges around here, and so I've got spreadsheets going from one end of Excel to the other end of Excel. I've got a spreadsheet for coloring groups, for what ad I ran in what group on what day, and that's the other thing, you know, you have to like, I like to use band colorings in my promotions, and you know, so you don't want one band to feel slighted, so you know, you have to make up a lot of different promotions and a lot of different work. And in the meantime, it occurred to me as I looked at the calendar a couple days ago that it was December, I think it was December the 9th, and I said, oh my goodness, I haven't drawn a Christmas drawing. And I always draw a Christmas drawing. I only have a few Christmas drawings, and it's because I only draw them at Christmas. People keep saying, well, aren't you going to ever release a Christmas book? And I say, well, if I ever have enough Christmas drawings for a book, I will. So, I have begun a Christmas drawing, and today, in a fit of complete madness, I actually have committed myself to, I need an indigo. I need an indigo blue. That's this one. Okay. I'm going to darken up just a little bit this area right in here. So in a fit of madness, I committed myself to doing a live color along in my Facebook group. And I will put a link in this video. I'm thinking that it will probably be, originally I wanted it to be Saturday the 15th, but then it occurred to me that everybody streams on Saturdays, and that would probably not be a good idea. So I thought I might do it on Wednesday the 19th. And I'm just trying to figure out what time, because I have a lot of fans from, or a lot of members of my group are from across the pond. So I don't want to do it so late in the day that that they're all in bed. I would like to do it at any rate. So details to be worked out, but I'm going to do a live stream. I'm going to do it on Facebook. To start with, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know why I'm going to do it on Facebook first, but oh well, I know why, because that's where my fan coloring group is. Duh. Silly me. Okay, so back to swatching my Prismacolors. Now, they are absolutely, of course, I've had the 72 set for a while. Love them. There are so many colors. And I apologize if I'm wheezing tonight. There are so many colors in that set that I didn't have before. And I asked the other day, I think I asked Sammy, I said, do you know if there is any rhyme or reason to the Prismacolor numbering set, or numbers, the numbers of the pencils. Okay, so you see how that is now, I've got my highlight up here. I'm not entirely happy with that highlight because there's like there's a little piece of wax I want to scrape off, and I don't know if I can. Hang on. Let me see if I have my little scraping tool. By the way, this is a dental pick, but this is not what I use it for, although I have used them. The ones I keep in the bathroom are the ones that I use for hygiene, but it's a great little scraper to scrape wax off if you get one of those stubborn little pieces of wax that you don't want to take an eraser to it, because then you'll lose too much of the but that's what I wanted to do. Just wanted to get rid of that so that I could narrow up that highlight. Still not totally happy with that highlight, but I am just not too. Look at, I even got outside the lines. That's all right. I really am sort of, for reasons unknown, nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof tonight, or anxious. Now this is the, this is probably not something I should be using. Let's do the indigo blue instead. I'll sharpen it. Okay, so back to the Prismacolor numbers. So then I went over to Lori's site at Color My World, because she is, of course, just a Prismacolor queen. Oops. And to see if I could find anything about a meaning to the numbers. Nothing. I couldn't find anything there. Found lots of interesting information on color blends and what colors blend well together, but nothing about the numbering system. So then I tried running a Google search to see if there was a color swatch that would show them in numerical order, to see if that would reveal anything. And I couldn't find anything that was, you know, that had been done in the way that I was thinking. And so finally I ended up doing it myself. And this is what happened. Hang on. Okay. And this is what happened. All right, so these are my big swatches. Now, these are actually done in exactly the way that the pencils come in the box. And so I did my swatches on, this is tray 1, or layer 1, tray 1, tray 2. Then you go through the blues and all those gorgeous greens and browns and all of that. But these are grouped by all the blues together, all the greens together, all the browns together. but they don't tell me anything about the color families. And the reason why I was so obsessed about this is look at this tray. Okay. Now, do you see how this is divided up into color families? You have your warm grays, your cool grays, your French grays, and I noticed you don't notice it when you're looking at the box, when you're just looking at it, but here on the screen, as I was looking at the playback of when I opened these, you can in fact see it. These are all in numerical order. They were literally numbered 150, 151, 52, 53, 50, and on, all the way to here. The only numbers that are missing are for what would be, like, there is no 40% gray. There's a 10, there's a 20, there's a 30, but there's no 40%. And so there's a number skip there. 50% picks up with, okay, so you have 10, 20, 30, 161, 40 would be 1062, and this is 1063 because it's 50. So there's a number that's missing there. And that was why my brain was obsessing on the idea that there had to be something hidden in the numbers. I have a mathematical brain. It's why I draw what I draw, because what I draw is all about angles and numerical sequences and precision. It's all about mathematics. It's really what it is. And so what I discovered, I think, is fairly interesting. At least to me, and in the way of possibly helping to pick color palettes in the future. Gosh, I hope that's in focus. My eyes are shut, guys. I really cannot tell if it's in focus or not. But over here, starting with number 103, so 103, 105, 109, 18, all the numbers that are in the 100 series, all the way down to here. So it starts at 103, it goes to 195. So these are all in the 100 series, and they're jewel tones. There is no doubt in my mind that these are jewel tones. Now, these are the ones that are actually labeled. There's the cerulean blue, the cobalt turquoise, the Prussian green. That is a paint color. That is a pigment color. The cadmium orange, the sap green, the permanent red, the dioxazine purple, the cobalt, the eggshell, the pomegranate, the Indian throne. The Indian throne is at a 200 in the 200 sequence, and the gray green is in the 200 sequence. These are all jewel tones. Then you go 901, and it actually does go in order. There are no number skips. 901, 2, 3, 4, all the way here at 956. Okay, so it stops at 956 and jumps to 988. So this all is a color family from here to here. They're all different colors, but they're all in what I would term the brights. Okay, so then you go 988, which is marine green. There's a neutral color that literally blends with everything. And then you start over here, 988, 89, your chartreuse, and goes, it goes to right here to this beige. And these are actually, they're more jewel tones is really what they are. They're like an addition that came later to these, or maybe they named these for pigment and these are the actual, it's a different family, but it's all related. It's all a related family. And then starting from the salmon and going down all the way here to 140, this is a whole other family of colors, including the neons, which are the neon yellow, the neon orange, the neon pink, and the electric blue. So these are, I would call these the midtones. The midtones, and including all the flesh tones. And then you get over here to starting with 1078, the black cherry, and going all the way down. And these are all the muted tones. Every single one of these is a muted tone. It's just, to me, it's just fascinating. It's just fascinating. And it helps me to know, like, that picture that Color and Chat with Sammy did, that she colored it, it was in the Witches edition of the Coloring Heaven magazine. And she did that marvelous Ennis Guerrero, and she used the like the moss green color for the jacket, and she used this like black raspberry color for the skirt, and it was just, it all came out of a color family. It was, I think it was different pencils, but it came out of this muted color family, and it looked so good. So it helps me to know that if I want a muted palette, I can look at this chart and it gives me my muted colors. I know exactly where to go in the boxes for my muted colors. And so that's why I did that. At any rate, I think it's interesting. I think it was not, I thought, I was halfway through this and I thought, this could just be a colossal waste of my time to have, sort of done this exercise. But I was looking for answers, and I think I found them to my satisfaction. And that's all I'll say about that. Okay. Now, I imagine you want me to get back to this. Have I really been talking for 32 minutes and all I've managed is one gemstone? Ay, ay, ay. Okay, you guys are just so patient with me. What can I tell you? I watch, I've been watching Zucchini Kitty, and she can teach you more in 10-minute videos or 15-minute videos. Been watching her work in that Hannah Carlson one where she was, she did it in like 4 or 5 parts. The mice in the tree, the 2-page spread, was just wonderful. Okay, so light-handed. Okay, anxiety level is still sitting right, just ridiculously high. And I have no idea why. But coloring really helps. I was watching Anne's face-to-face yesterday about her adventures on Black Friday and Cyber Monday and Tuesday, and she went on a 4-day coloring book binge buying trip. 61 books, guys. 61 books in 4 days. That is a lot of books. That is going to be a lot of color. But she did get some beautiful books. And she's going to do some beautiful coloring. It is a funny video. I absolutely recommend it if you haven't already been over there to see it. I know that most of you probably have. And that I should probably just shut up and color. Thank you for your positive feedback, by the way, on the last story video. I realize that ending might have seemed a little anticlimactic, but well, at any rate, I enjoyed telling it. I have said out loud to Kenny in a comment that the next part of my story is actually sort of stranger than fiction, and it's the timing of it that was very, very odd. Here we go again with the focus thing. Please be in focus. Please be in focus. And I think I had laid a foundation for the story by telling you that my mother was one of 2 children, 2 original children, born to a young mother and her husband, who their marriage didn't last. Times were hard. It's tough to, it was the early 20s, and so things could be kind of tough, and in order to make sure that both of her children survived, one of the girls was given to a family that did not have any children, and didn't really have any hope of having any children of their own. And that they were they were unaware, apparently, the 2 girls, and then of course the mother did go on to remarry. She had tried to give my mother away too, but my mother was sick, she had rickets from malnutrition, which, by the way, she did eventually get over. And well, that actually turned out kind of pretty. And now I'll just do a little darkening up around the very outside edges. At any rate, all of that was foundation for a story involving her stepfather. And so that's already in the can, and I won't talk about that one again. But apparently the two girls did grow up as friends. Now, the one and only time that my mother ever talked about that sister, what she told me, excuse me, I need to turn the book just a tiny bit. What she told me was that she had a sister that she said she found out when she was 16 that her best friend was actually her sister, and that their mothers had been lying to them all their lives, and that she never forgave either one of them. And that is the only thing that I knew about the sister, other than her name. I did know her name. And I'm not going to say her name. And the reason is because her children, my cousins, are still alive. And they are, in fact, the miracle that happened. To me, at any rate, in that the timing of when I found out about them was one of those things that you can only chalk this up to the miracles of the universe. There is no way that it could be any other way. And I will tell you about what happened, just as soon as I make sure that I will not fall apart in trying to do so. So, because it involves the saddest day of my life. And that is the day that I lost my dad. And I had gotten a call early in the week. Well, I should go back. My dad, of course, the short version of this is that he did not like doctors. He was never sick a day in his life. He didn't go to a doctor regularly. I am having a heck of a time laying in the highlights, guys, of these. And it's because my concentration is shot. I know why my anxiety level is so high. Because this is the last part of this story, but it is. And I had promised you no more sad stories. So this is not a sad story. This is a happy story. It just happened on a sad day. But it's also one of the reasons why it is such a happy day. Or such a, it's a happy story. Because of the day that it happened. We're just laying in the, this is Violet. So at any rate, my dad hadn't wanted to tell me that he was sick. And it was my stepmother who called me at the office one day and said, "Your father needs to talk to you," and then handed him the phone. He was not going to call me to tell me. And then, when he did tell me how sick he was, he said, "Don't tell your sisters." And I'm like, I won't, right? Well, I kept that promise for about 5 hot seconds. And because that was just not the kind of information. So all you parents out there, if you are going to deliver bad news to one of your kids, do not say to them, don't tell your sisters. And the reason is because nobody should have that kind of knowledge alone. Okay? Do you hear me? No one should ever have to bear that kind of information alone. So the first thing I did is call my oldest sister, my eldest sister, who I adore. I have always adored her from the time that I was a little kid to today. I still adore her, even though we don't speak to each other. She is my big sister, and sorry, she's simply stuck with the title. But that it doesn't have any bearing at all on this particular story, other than the fact that he was treated with 33 radiation treatments, and he called me and told me he was sick in July. I saw him on his birthday. That was the first time that I could actually get home to California, was on his birthday, which was August the 20th. And, he looked pretty good for a guy who'd undergone 33 radiation treatments. Although he wasn't, in fairness, he wasn't all the way through. So that was August 20th. August 20th. On September 14th, my aunt called me to tell me that she had seen my dad, and that I should probably start preparing myself, I guess is what she said. Now, my aunt never called me. You gotta understand that she was a fixture in my life all my life, but she never called me on the telephone. I always saw her because she and my dad lived down the street from each other. So whenever I would go home, I would always go see my aunt too. So at any rate, it was very, it all happened. she eventually called me back a few days later, and she said, it's time for you to come. And I didn't really realize, because this was the first time that, that I had ever really had to deal with, when my mother passed away, I guess, because she was sick too, so yeah, I guess they all thought I could handle it. I don't know. But, my dad had done things like, I'm also going to do these little blue things. He had pre-planned and prepaid for his funeral. And but he was at a point where he couldn't write the checks anymore. So I had to, I had to write his bill. He was worried that that the bills weren't getting paid. Now, this was one of the things that my dad had been doing for a number of years, is covering, and this is really why he was so upset about it. He'd been covering for how sick my stepmother actually was. Now, she suffered a series of mini strokes, and over a period of a few years, and it led to what they call senile dementia. It wasn't Alzheimer's. It was they called it senile dementia because it's a different physiology, I guess, than Alzheimer's. But the effect is pretty much exactly the same. No memory, short-term memory. And my dad used to laugh. He'd say, "Yes, Ella, she wakes up in a new world every day." Which is funny from a distance, but it is not funny up close, and it is very, very sad that that people do that. And of course, I had my stepmother. I've said before that my dad was a recovering alcoholic. He had been sober for 33 years at the time of his death. My stepmother had been sober for 35 years, 38 years at the time of my father's death. And this powder blue does not like to sharpen. And so I was a little taken aback, because one of the things that I did while I was there, well, actually that came later, came after my dad actually passed away. I was there for 33 days. I had 15 minutes notice to leave my office, and my boss, who was an amazing guy and so supportive, drove me to the airport and then sent somebody home with my car, because my aunt was like, "No, you need to come now." As in, no, you can't wait until tomorrow, and you need to come now. So of course I left from the office. I had no clothes, nothing of my own at all. I had my suit that I was wearing that day, and I had my purse, and that was it. So my dad was not doing good. There is no doubt about it. And of course, this is what all led to me having to call hospice do all that stuff. So, on the morning that he passed away, and for those of you who have had somebody pass away at home, there's this very odd thing that happens. People start coming out of the woodwork with food. People that you didn't call. People that you know, there is, and if you want to know how a network works, try the Alcoholics Anonymous people. One person called to find out how he was doing that day, found out he had passed away, and the next thing I know, I have so much support and so many people that were just there. I mean, they were just suddenly there to do whatever needed doing. You know, whatever needed doing, these people came and they did it. And that was, you know, that was just mind-blowing to me. And it still is. It's just, it's a phenomenon, and people are amazing. You know, and now I, of course, you know, since I've been on the other end of that with other people that I know having passed away, it's the you know, it's the urge to do something. You want to do something to help the person. So, you know, so my aunt and uncle drove to the airport to pick up my boyfriend, who you know, immediately hopped on a plane to be with me, and could not fly into a convenient airport, you know, because there weren't any short-term or short-notice flights, and so they had to drive all the way out to you know, practically to San Bernardino to pick him up from Ontario, and get him there. And in the meantime, I'm, you know, dealing with because when somebody dies at home, you have to deal with police and coroners and stuff like that. But then the hospice people got us out of that, so that was cool. And so it was just a horrible day. It was, I mean, it was as horrible a day. It could have been a lot worse, but, you know, if all those people weren't there. Of course, there was all that food to deal with, and somebody did that too. It's like all I had to do was just stand there numb. And, you know, and you are, when somebody passes away, you are just numb like that. So the phone rings. And I just, you know, reached over and picked it up, and somebody who was probably as nervous as I was the day that I first called my Aunt Lois for the very first time calls me up, or you know, I'm at my dad's house, for heaven's sakes. Why would this person be calling me at my dad's house? It was my cousin. My mother's sister's child. And she said, "We've been looking for you for 20 years. I was like, even as horrible as that day was, I still saw the blessing in, and the, you know, the thought right there that God doesn't close a door if there is a God, you know, it's an expression. I call it the universe, but it could be a God. Heck, I don't know. Doesn't close a door without opening a window. So, you know, here I was, truly an orphan. You know, both parents have now passed away. My stepmother is in such bad shape. There's no way that I can, you know, I am going to have to either be her caregiver for the next however long she lives, or, you know, I'm going to have to find some way to deal with it. And here suddenly is this window of people that belong to me. You know, it was both a glorious and a heartbreaking moment, because of course, you know, I told him that I just lost my dad, and it was, you know, that was very sad, and obviously it was not the right time for us to engage in a, you know, in a lengthy conversation of any kind. But it was so cool to know that they were there. And that is how I found out about what happened to, I didn't find, none of us, we were all trying to solve the same mysteries, really. Eventually, we did get around to those, and that was, what in the world happened to cause those two girls to stop talking to each other? My mother and her, you know, best friend, who was actually her sister, and, you know, other family mysteries, like the mystery of our grandfather and our maternal grandmother, and that type of thing, because we would have all had the same one. But it was just very, very cool. To have all of that happening. And the timing of it was just perfect, because it gave me just that smidge of something to look forward to at a time where everything looked bleak. And it really made me know that whatever storms come into our life, they're not more than we can handle. You know, they're not more than we can handle, and there is always hope. There is always something, you know. So never get stuck in that negative place, because you don't need to, you know. It's just it's just an unnecessary place to be, that negative place. I am missing maybe that is it. Hi everybody, I'm back. I apologize. I did stop the video. I listened to the replay just to, you know, make sure that I wasn't making a total fool myself. And while I was at it, I couldn't help but to finish this little jewel up. And so that's what I did. I just did the purple. I did it pretty much the same way that I'd done this one up here. Except that I haven't yet done the dark shade around it. I also wanted to check to see how long the video was going to be, because the processor is, I'm going to let it run overnight, so I'll actually be posting this tomorrow. This will go up on Thursday, I believe, and right now it's Wednesday night at around 10 o'clock in the evening. Just adding a little bit of dark in there. Just kind of make it stand out. And we'll set aside those blues, and we'll pull out our pink. And, yep, pink. And we'll do this part. I do just sort of start out lightly until I get the feel for where the pencil is going to lay down. Plus, the colors look so much nicer when you layer them, as opposed to blanket them on the page. I think you get much more control that way as well over the blend. So, if you are wondering, my stepmother did live another 6 years, and I was able to honor the promise I had made to my dad, which was that we not, I did not want to relegate her to any kind of a care facility. It just was never going to be like that. It was not what she would have wanted. It certainly was not what he would have wanted, and it absolutely was not what I wanted for her. Because, she'd been my stepmother since I was 5 years old, and I loved her to pieces. And losing her was hard. It was, in the end, it was a bit of a mercy. She ended up passing away from a bout of pneumonia. But by that time she had gotten to the point where she was no longer able to, she had no quality of life. And the doctor actually called me and said that, because I didn't realize that the caregiver was doing, you know what, there's no way to say it without being cruel. He believed that in life for life's sake, I happen to know that she believed in quality of life, and I believe that in the end we were able to honor her wishes, and it is not a choice that was made either lightly or easily, to withhold you know, feeding tubes and things like that, which I think would have just made her cringe, the mere idea of that. So, but it was very sad losing her. But I know that she is in a better place. And she's with my dad. Because they were a match made in heaven. The best looking guy and the best looking gal in AA. That's what they would say. Both of them. She was a beauty, but then my dad always picked beautiful women for wives. My mother was beautiful. My sister's mother was beautiful. My dad was a handsome devil. And you know, he was my dad. To me, he was my hero. Hard to believe sometimes how long it's been. It's been, gosh, it's been 25 years, I think, since he passed away. He died in 1994. So, 2004, 2014, 24 years anyway. That just, it no longer seems like yesterday, but it just doesn't seem like it was 24 years ago either. And I'm still in contact with my cousins. We occasionally play Words with Friends. Once again, Facebook connected. Isn't the world connected on Facebook? Okay. And go down here. You need to watch the time on this video. If they run much more than an hour and a half, I end up, they just take forever to edit and render in the thing. I'm going to let this one run overnight though, so it won't be so bad. It's just that I can't do anything else with the computer, excuse me, while the video is rendering, so I'll do it while I'm sleeping. What are some of the other topics that I wrote down of things to talk about? Oh, hey, there's a good one. All right, so, you know, my schedule is always pretty weird. I've, in the last couple days, I have successfully managed to be up during the day and asleep at night like normal people. But that's, you know, that will come and go. It just depends upon what's going on. But I am one of those folks that when I go to sleep, I gotta sleep for 8 hours. And so if I lay down to take a nap at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and wake up at midnight, then I'm good to go until I need another nap, and that'll be another 8-hour nap. I've tried to take the 20-minute nap, and I can, every now and again, I can manage one of those, but it's usually 8 hours at a stretch. So, more often than not, I end up catching the first news broadcasts of the day. See, there was a point to this. There is a point to this story. And what I wrote down is, if you want to know what's really going on in the world, watch the early news. Here it comes on around 4 a.m. And the first hour of the CBS This Morning show, and the first hour of the CBS This Morning show also, for news, that comes on at 7. Because it's mostly news, not entertainment, which is what GMA has become. Okay, so that's commentary on why I don't watch GMA, Good Morning America, because it's mostly entertainment and sensationalizing, and I don't like either one in my news. But it's also, if you catch the early news, you get it before it's been sanitized or before it's been handled by by whatever it is that happens in the newsrooms that changes the story throughout the day, and basically sanitizes it. And so by the time you get to the 11 o'clock news, you're getting a washed out version with a whole lot more sound bites and a whole lot less content than you get if you watch the same story at 4 o'clock in the morning when it first comes to air. And especially, this is especially true with the, when you've got these rants or raves or tweet sessions or whatever they are in the news. So that what seems outrageous at the 4 o'clock in the morning news report is just merely acceptable at the 11 o'clock news report. So that was one of the things that I wrote down. Okay, so now we have that one looking a little bit like the other one. And I am going to go ahead and end this video here. I am going to go ahead and immediately start the next video. And we're going to do this blue section and this gold. And maybe this gold too, okay? So carry on, everybody. Color something pretty, and I'll see you for part 5. Thanks for watching.